Welcome to your all-in-one podcast show, where we speak to heal, to teach, to inform, and to educate. Get ready as we dive into today's episode. My name is Brittany Funky. You can call me Funky Speaks, your favorite host. Why is she acting like that? Why is she acting like that? Did you notice? Why? Why did she act like that? I know you want to know who she is and why did she act the way she did. That brings me to topic 4 today. Why is she acting like that? And today we are going down into the behavioral patterns. Let's break it down. Why do people act the way they do? Do you sometimes see how this person who you love so much, or let's say you don't even love, there's somebody you are trying to understand, and their behaviors does not correspond to your mind's expectation. And every time you're asking yourself, what could be the reason he or she is behaving this way? Let's go to people who act in a very awkward and weird way. You know, sometimes it's a bug to the society. It's cancerous. It's disturbing because we want to know, why will he or she be taking drugs? Why will she dress half naked? Why will he cheat? Why will she try to have many friends as possible? Why does she go clubbing? And we always try to pinpoint the errors. We try to see the problem and not look for the solution. Now, before you identify a problem, or before you start talking about a problem, you are supposed to ask yourself, what is the cause of the problem? And that's one thing we don't talk about. We would barely or never talk about the cause of a behavior that we try to understand. Now, let's go to our childhood experiences. One of the key reasons why people act the way they do is their childhood experiences. Your childhood makes like 70% of who you are in life. If you choose it to let you behave the way you do, it will affect you greatly. Because these are things that have been cultured. It's like a CD that's empty and it has things put in it. So before it comes out, sometimes it will need to crash for a new CD to be burned to produce something else. So first thing you have to understand, why do they behave this way? Childhood experiences. As a child, there are things that are stuck in your brain. They're stuck in your mind. They're just so in you that it can so correspond. It can so push you to behave in a certain way. Let's talk about traumas. Look at a girl who has struggled with being validated from childhood. Maybe her parents never told her she's beautiful. Her father probably hit her multiple times. Her mom probably insulted her as many times as possible. She's growing up verbally abused, physically abused, and she becomes so defensive in life. She grows up to a teenager and she's so defensive. And we are so troubled. We are so angry. Like, why is she so defensive? She pops up to be like so tough, so hard, because she grew up in a very tough environment. This formed her and made her to be tough. Let's talk about a guy who grew up in a community, an environment. This goes to the second point, which the reason for behavioral patterns is the environment we grow around or grow in. You see a guy who grows, sags his trouser, smokes, have friends, go out, lives carelessly. Maybe when he was growing up, there was never order. And what he saw around him were people who went out many times, drank, got wasted, get ladies, waste the ladies, and probably feel like that's a sense of living. Environmental effects. These are things that affect people. Another thing is the words they hear. They were like, I was talking about childhood traumas. What you hear. I'm very fortunate I knew God early. And I chose to know God while I was growing. I'm going to be vulnerable here. While I was growing, I was in that kind of atmosphere. I grew up in a Christian home, but I struggled a lot with verbal abuse. Verbal abuses from especially my mom. Because I don't have a dad. I never had a father. I never saw my biological father. So I was growing up with my mom, knowing fully well that my mom is going to fill the gap of my dad. And I know definitely my mom is going to play that role perfectly. But my mom too had a shortcoming, which was her mouth. And this was taken is like generational because my grandma too was very mouthy. Or she is, but thank God she's aging and it's really is reducing. So my mom actually took this for my granny. And one of the things that made my mom verbally abusive towards me was because I was her mistake. I always say it like I was born a parent. I was like I am, not I was a parental accident because I was never planned. My mom had me when she was still a student, age 17. So it was so traumatizing for her. She could not believe it. When I came, it was like I was the worst thing that existed in her world. So she was actually pouring out her anger. She was pouring out her disappointments, her sadness. Everything was on me. So I grew up in that atmosphere where I saw my mom consistently bitter towards me. So I was always trying to be validated. I tried to do things to please my mom. So now I became slowly a people pleaser. And nobody would understand. People will start seeing me like trying to do acts of service, trying to please people, but not knowing that this is from my childhood experience. It's the environment. These are the things I had. So my mom was verbally abusive. She would use words like, "You are not good enough. Nothing good can come out from you. I guess the day you were born. And these are the things that got into my head. And when I do something wrong, my mom will always say, "You're a bad child." When my mom said, "You're a bad child," that sank deep. And I really believed it because she did not say it one time. When something is said more than once, what is said more than twice, when it is said more than 3 times or 4 times, it becomes something you accept. So I accepted that indeed I'm a bad child. So it got to a point where it was so severe, mentally, subconsciously, I had absorbed the fact that I'm a bad child. So I'll go to school, I was very reserved, but I became really angry. I had a lot of bitterness in me. I had anger issues. So I always went to school, very calm. The reason I never talked was because I never wanted somebody to smash me. And if you smash me, trust me, it was going to be hell. I will never let anybody smash me because of where I grew and what are things I had. So I was constantly trying to show up. I was constantly trying to show up as in, I just wanted to be like, I'm heard, I'm seen. I became fully arrogant and proud because I just knew that I could not really be the best. So that was my own defense mechanism to appear as very bold, to appear as very courageous, to appear as very prideful. You see, so and anything that I have to ask in class, I'll always like to show up and then try to showcase myself. But God had to humble me. When I knew Jesus, I gave my life to Christ and I started reading the Bible. I said to myself, I'm a royal priesthood. I'm created in His image. I'm the best version of myself. I'm the best. I was created with a purpose. I wrote affirmations. I was working with them. I had to say it to myself on a daily. I had to say it to myself every single minute, every single day, months and years. And when I kept on saying it, it became part of me. And this is how I healed. This is how I started building myself. I started knowing that, oh, I have something to offer. I discovered purpose and God created me because He loves me. I don't really need to be validated before I can know that I'm worth it. So you see, so some of these behaviors that people portray, it's not really because of it's not the problem that we should be identifying. It should look for where they grew up. Look at their atmosphere, look at their environment, look at their experiences when they were young. Check a man who gets married and commits adultery. Maybe his father he's from a polygamous home and he saw it very normal. Look for a guy who beats his wife or girlfriend. These are people who probably grew up from an atmosphere who saw beating as a healing balm to make their wives, their girlfriends to seem to be order, to make them to be in order. So you have to check these experiences. So we don't misjudge people. We instead will not show hatred, but we will love on them. Because most people moving around are broken vessels. They are broken pieces. They are looking for healing. They want to be mended. But because the world has made them feel like they are rejected, they cannot be mended. So they decide to be the worst. They decide not to be the best. So check out the behavioral patterns. So what am I saying here in a nutshell? I'm saying here in a nutshell that we should identify the reasons for a behavior and not focus on the problems, because every solution comes when you have discovered the cause. The cause will propel you to discover the solutions to the problem. So that's just it for today's episode. And I pray this touches you and this helps you in one way or the other. We hope you learned something new that will help you at one point in life. Please do us a favor by sharing this episode with your friends and follow us on all social media platforms as Brittany Funky. From us to you. See you in the next episode. Bye.